Hello everybody, it's Stewart Swerdlow.
And Janet Diane Moya Swerdlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for Thanksgiving week in U.S. 2017.
The end of it. Kinda.
Well, it was just the other day, and so it was still November.
Yeah, and you were busy cooking.
Oh, I was cooking, cleaning,
yes.
baking,
So,
milking the cows, getting the eggs from the chickens.
All the things you do.
Catching the turkey in the woods and all that. I did all of those things.
You were very busy.
Yes, I couldn't get the wild boar, though.
Yeah, well, you tried. Cingale.
Ooh.
Cingale.
You watch your language.
In Italian.
Yeah, you just watch your language with that foul mouth.
Yeah. Anyway, so I want to go ahead then with my news.
Go ahead.
And then if you've been reading the news, you'll tell me what you're thinking about all this stuff.
Maybe not. Sometimes I can't think.
Okay, but before I get started, I want you to tell me how to pronounce this name.
Nogueira.
Okay, Nogueira. Anyway, two of my favorite people, Ivanka and Donald Trump. Now they're claiming that they are involved in an organized crime trail, of course, that leads back to Russia.
Of course, everything is if anyone gets a hangnail, it's because of Russia.
Yeah, well, anyway, this one happens to start in Panama. Because apparently in the spring of 2007, many foreigners went to Panama City and were picked up by a chauffeur who took them in a white Cadillac with a Donald Trump logo on its side for meetings about purchasing apartment units, I guess, in a Trump Ocean Club International Hotel and Tower.
Yeah, right. But you know, when we were in Panama City, no one picked us up in a white Cadillac.
No, maybe it's a good thing because they're saying not such good things about these people. Because there are many Russians apparently in all of this. And the man who was involved was this name, Alexandre Ventura Nogueira. Okay, so he was the one who's ahead of this project, and he said he knew Ivanka Trump, and he knew Mr. Trump, Donald Trump, all those things that she would remember him.
This is before she was married to...
this was back in 2007. I don't know what year she got married, but this was back in 2007, and Trump had said he wanted her to take care of this so that she could become familiar with how to do real estate deals and so on and so forth. So, anyway, he claims that Ivanka would remember him and that she was so taken with his sales skills that she helped him become a leading broker for the development, and he appeared in a video with her promoting the project. Then, later on, it was found out that this Nogueira did business with a Colombian who was later convicted of money laundering and is now in detention in the U.S., a Russian investor who was jailed in Israel in the 1990s for kidnap and threats to kill, and Ukrainian investor who was arrested for alleged people smuggling while working with him and then later convicted by a
he has a nice group of friends, doesn't he?
Yeah, and then it said then he himself was arrested by Panamanian authorities on charges of fraud and forgery unrelated to the Trump project. He was released then on $1.4 million bail and fled the company. The country. Now, he said that these people, including all these Russians who purchased units in the Trump Ocean Tower, said he did not know where the money was coming from.
Well, who knows where they come
That's right. He said it wasn't illegal. As far as he knew, they were doing transfers and cash, so he wasn't worried about it. And nobody asked him, including the Trumps, about the source.
Right.
Anyway, it goes...
Probably just said, fill the building. I don't care who you get as long as they pay for it.
And so eventually then, when he went back to Ivanka, Ivanka said she never heard of him.
Right.
And doesn't know anything about it. And then there was a Reuters interview. This was also interesting, attached to the same article, that said that there were at least 63 individuals with Russian passports or addresses who had bought $98.4 million worth of property in 7 Trump-branded luxury towers in southern Florida.
Okay, well, maybe we should sell things to the Russians.
Maybe. They included politically connected businessmen and people from the second and third tiers of Russian power.
What does that mean?
It means high-level people. So anyway, so now bringing this up now again about the Ivanka-Donald Trump thing. So,
you know what I heard about them? I don't know if you have it in your news.
What?
That Donald wants them to move back to New York.
All of them?
No, he wants Ivanka and...
Oh, Kushner?
Yeah, because apparently they're having marital trouble, and he's blaming it on because they live in Washington.
Well, he's trying to distance things and settle things around simply because of everything that's going on with the Kushner connection. And of course, Ivanka putting her in as quote-unquote first daughter and giving her the office for free, which is really costing us taxpayers a ton of money. All these things, which gives the American people more fuel to the fire. And
they don't have to do too much to aggravate people.
No. And speaking of Trump, Trump is now urging African nations to press North Korea to end its nuclear and missile programs.
Oh, because that'll have a lot of power over North Korea.
Including downgrading diplomatic ties, expelling North Korean laborers. Which I didn't know North Korea had laborers in Africa.
Yeah, they have them all over.
Really?
Because they have no jobs in North Korea.
So the government lets them go?
Well, not that lets them go. It's like, if you don't come back, we'll kill your family.
Yeah, but how do they get... Oh, maybe so. Anyway, and then it said the U.S. State Department said that Sudan had committed to severing trade and military ties with North Korea. Again, for whatever that means. But here we go. And speaking of Kim Jong-un, you probably heard of the North Korean soldier who defected across into South Korea.
I don't understand how he ran all that way and didn't get killed.
Well, they said he was...
They can't be too good of,
They said he was shot 5 times.
Yeah, but he didn't die.
But maybe his comrades had to shoot at him, obviously, or they would get shot. So maybe they didn't really shoot to kill, even though they
didn't have to hit him. But the thing is, I'm sure they'll all get executed now.
Well, they might. That's what I said. So, they had to do something, otherwise it would look suspicious. But he did make it out. And what was interesting is, to me, this is talking about that he had an enormous number of parasitic worms.
Yeah, I saw the pictures of that.
One measuring 11 inches in length.
How could you live with that in your body?
Well, a lot of people have parasites,
11 inches.
Yes, absolutely, because they curl up. And so that's one of the things we talk about in our health and healing is how to get rid of parasites, and that people have a lot more than they realize. But what was interesting to me about this is the fact that they made such a big deal out of it.
Oh, because they want to make North Korea look bad.
Yeah, but parasites, because I have something to tell you why I think. So there again, this is a fear factor because they're making it sound like it's so horrible. And the surgeon said, in my over 20-year-long career as a surgeon, I've only seen something like this in textbooks. Then they go on to say that because they have chemical fertilizer shortages, that they're encouraging them to fertilize with livestock manure and human feces. Now, this happens all over the world. And so they're trying to make this sound abnormal, and it's not.
Yeah, but you know what else I heard about
that?
That the children are so hungry in North Korea that they actually go into that poop and they try to pick out like corn kernels and other things to eat.
Well, that might happen. But my point being is that's not abnormal. Birds and dogs and all other animals, they get stuff from other animals' poop. And they eat from it. So, and it is done here in the U.S. as well.
No.
Yes, they break it down, they fertilize, and in fact, when I read, what's the name of that really big thing? Les Miserables, they made a story in that. There's a whole chapter in there about how that society is losing because they're not making use of human waste. Most of it now, they just, I don't know what they do with it, but they're trying to bring it back. So the fact that they're bringing up about fertilizing with the human feces, I thought was interesting. Parasite, I thought was interesting. And then, also because they're trying to tell you that chemical fertilizer is better than natural fertilizer. So they're putting all this in your head. Now, all this, I've been watching this story because it doesn't go away. When things don't go away, there's something, right?
Well, sometimes they go away because they are something.
Well, true. One extreme to the other. So then the story that followed, I don't know if you saw this. Did you read about Vietnam's silent killer?
No.
Vietnam's silent killer, or silent bullet they called it in this article, is, guess what? Jungle parasites.
Well, that's like normal. It's a jungle.
So, first of all, they make a big deal about this one, and now they talk about jungle parasites, and they say that these jungle parasites create and cause a rare bile cancer that is actually killing Vietnam veterans. And they said that the origins are believed to stem from ingesting raw or undercooked fish, and that a small pilot study found that of 50 veterans tested, 20% were positive, and it can take decades for symptoms to appear, and by then patients are in tremendous pain and often have just a few months to live.
Well, I find that very hard to believe.
Well, that's why I said, so we've got the parasites in North Korea, now we've got the parasites in the Vietnam veterans, and we've got this, the chemical fertilizer is better than, natural type of fertilizer. So this is two stories about the same thing. So I'm going to watch for a third. Keep your eyes open. Because, again, it's all about...
I'm sure it'll all be about Asia, wouldn't it?
It's all about instilling fear. And speaking of fear, now you and I, of course, just came back from Texas and New Mexico, and we were down in the Big Bend area, right? And we saw and we reported on how easy it was to get from Mexico to the U.S.
Just walk right across the damn river.
And in El Paso, how the people all got along and worked together, right?
Yeah, they said they go back and forth all the time. It's no big deal.
Now, what have we got in the news? We have a border agent who was killed.
Right where we were.
Exactly. And they claim that illegal immigrants ambushed them and they think killed them with rocks.
I don't believe that.
It's a very strange
story. You know what
story.
else I heard? I don't know if you're going to talk about that maybe they weren't killed, that they were just fell in the dark into a ravine and hit their heads.
That's possible. Anything's possible
That's
out there.
That's what another story said.
I didn't read that, but it's absolutely possible. But apparently they said that they were responding to activity near Interstate 10 in the Van Horn Station area. So mile marker 151. Now, apparently the partner called for help. This 36-year-old man was already dead. And so that was huge. That was a huge story. And from what we could see, everybody kind of lived together very peacefully down there.
Yeah, and here's the thing.
A few people that existed.
You're an illegal alien, and you see these Border Patrol guards. Are you going to hide, or are you going to say, let's pick up rocks and then sneak up and hit them with rocks?
Well, there really aren't a lot of places to hide, depending on where you are. That's my point.
But you saw that it's just all barren, rocky desert there.
Yeah, and then Trump tweeted, as a result, quote,
of course, someone should take his phone away.
Border Patrol officer killed at southern border, another badly hurt. We will seek out and bring to justice those responsible. We will and must build the wall.
They're not going to build up. No. You saw how big that area. There's no way on this universe they're going to build a wall across that area ever.
Not only that, but in this area there aren't that many people. It's mostly animals. And then they're going to talk about the ecological ramifications and all kinds of things. That it's going to go on and on.
They should be too glad anybody wants to go there in the first place.
True. But then continuing on, because all this was kind of interesting, how that they're bringing this out to instill fear in people. The Republican Senator Ted Cruz also released a statement calling the attack, quote, a stark reminder of the ongoing threat that an unsecure border poses to the safety of our communities and those charged with defending them, unquote. It's like, really? And then it says that Big Bend, which is a huge border, accounts for about 1% of more than the 61,000 apprehensions that agents made along the southwest border.
Because you can't live there.
Right. And now this
it's like worse than the moon.
Yeah, and now listen to this. This especially, the region's mountains and the Rio Grande make it a difficult area for people to cross.
Yes.
It isn't. They can walk across it.
It was like the water's this deep.
Yeah, but it says it makes a difficult area for people to cross illegally into the U.S. from Mexico. No, it makes it very easy to cross, in my opinion. It would be very difficult to build a wall.
Well, you can't build anything on there.
No, and because even the sediment and everything, they have to come in about...
The river shifts
like
back
100 miles in, maybe,
it's
or
not
something.
possible. It's just a ridiculous thing.
It's very ridiculous. It's a fear-based. And then this also is interesting. It says the Border Patrol website lists 38 agents have died since 2003. Okay, so this is 2017, almost 18, right? So that's almost like 15 years.
Can I remind the viewers and you that we were on that bus and we got stopped by the Border Patrol, and the Border Patrol came on and said, how many of y'all are U.S. citizens? Okay, go ahead. Yeah. That was real security.
Okay, but listen to this. The Border Patrol website states 38 agents have died since 2003. Now, listen to this. This is from their website. Quote, some attacked while working along the border and other fatalities and traffic accidents.
Yeah, it means that they were drunk and they crashed their car.
But I mean, that has nothing to do with the border.
But that makes the stupid people who read the news think, oh my God, we got to do something about it.
Yeah, 38 agents. You stop there, you don't go on to see that some of them have died in traffic fatalities.
People, I urge any of you who can't to go there and see for yourself. It's not what they say.
No, it's just incredible. This is just more, baloney coming from the news.
It's not what they say.
And speaking of baloney coming from the news, what do you think about this Argentinian submarine
That's
situation?
why I wore this shirt, because Argentina is my favorite country. Well, one of my favorite countries. Yeah. And, well, go on and I'll comment.
All right. Well, anyway, so you may have heard that Argentina's Navy somehow or another lost contact with this ARA San Juan sub. It had 44 crew members on board. And as apparently it was going from the extreme southern port of Ushuaia to the coastal city of Mar del Plata.
And we were in Ushuaia.
Yes, we were.
It's a beautiful place.
Absolutely beautiful.
A little nippy, though.
But it says the communications attempts were received were thought originally to indicate the crew was trying to establish contact.
Right.
Then the officers analyzed these frequencies and claimed they didn't come from the sub.
Can I say something about that? Because then today it said that they realized it came from some kind of a creature.
No.
Or some kind of, undersea
something
thing. So here's my question. What kind of an undersea creature makes a noise that sounds like men banging on metallic submarine walls?
I don't know. I just found this whole thing bizarre because it reminded me of the lost airliner, that nobody found.
Right. So I'm wondering if they're going to actually find this submarine and what is it going to look like?
Or not.
Because are you going to talk about what happened to it?
Well, I'm just talking about some of the things that happened along the way, which I thought were interesting. Because it says that the submarine sent an alert about an unspecified breakdown, which raised the possibility of a technical difficulty. Then Argentina brought in the U.S. Navy and NASA. So NASA is looking from the sky, and U.S. Navy is sending undersea support.
Right.
So then they have a working theory that an electrical outage knocked out the ship's communications, but submarines are supposed to surface if that happens.
Yeah, because that's not what happened. Because all they said that they had a minor electrical glitch, and then you can see what.
Well, then they said that the elite Royal Navy rescue team was sent in to help.
Yeah.
So they're flying in its submarine parachute assistance group to the region. And this group consists of medics, engineers, and escape specialists. So right now the hunt includes people from Brazil, Chile, Uruguay, U.S., UK, of course Argentina, and it's just like, what's happening here?
Okay, because here's the thing. And they knew that these people were dead last week. And they didn't tell the families, and they made the families believe that they could be rescued. So when they told the families the other day that every single one of them is dead, first of all, how do they know? Since they haven't found anything.
Yeah, I never heard that one.
And second, and the families went berserk, and they called the government all kinds of terrible names, which I cannot repeat on this broadcast. However, they also said that the noise that they heard originally was an explosion.
I kind of heard that one, but nobody ever was definitive.
They know what an undersea explosion sounds like. So they knew when this thing disappeared what happened. And then they made this. So here's my thing. They knew what happened, but they made a cover story for a whole week till they say, oh, yeah, they're dead. So that means they knew, and they had to invest. They probably did find it, and they know what happened to it, because it's not in that deep of water, and they have all these countries with the technology looking. That means something very odd happened, and they're not going to tell people what it was.
No, I do agree with that. And I like, we may never hear, but just reminds me of that airliner that was lost in Malaysia. Same kind of thing. It's just it disappeared. We can't find it. It's like we can find.
They know what happened. They know exactly what happened.
Yes, because they can find, a hair on the back of your arm or something. They know
if it's a screwdriver floating by the moon, they know what it is.
Right. So how can they not find a submarine? So very strange. Whether or not we'll ever hear anymore, I don't know.
Well,
what
they'll have
that
a story.
will be.
They'll make up a story.
Yeah. And then, speaking about things under the ground, apparently the two geologists are saying now that they can predict earthquakes.
Really?
They're saying if they're correct, that the Earth is on track for a major uptick in major quakes next year.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Because when the Earth's rotation slows, they're claiming, the slowdown is followed by an increase in quakes with a magnitude of 7 or greater. Now, of course, this is what they always do. They tell you this story, and then they say, oops, we're just about there, because they said the rotational slowdowns typically happen over 5 years, and the last began 4 years ago. So that means this upcoming year, we should have more earthquakes.
Well, there have been a lot more recently.
We should see 2 to 5 more major earthquakes, it says, in this 2018. And then it goes on to talk about the big one because of the seafloor sediments off of the Pacific Northwest.
That's in your homeland.
Which could unleash a megaquake and a tsunami.
That's 2 for 1.
So apparently the sediment as offshore is more compact with potential for more stress. So then they're claiming that that's going to be more likely to have an earthquake off the shore of Washington, northern Oregon, which will create a tsunami. And we've been following this for a number of years. And they keep saying that the Pacific Northwest is actually one of the most dangerous places to live, in the entire world. So, and then Wisconsin, one of your favorite places because they have cheese.
Oh yeah, but I like Swiss cheese.
Well, they have cheese with holes in it.
And raclette.
Yeah, then maybe they make it there. I don't know.
Wow, they make cheddar there.
Anyway, Wisconsin is seeking to lower the drinking age to 19. But if they do, they say that they will lose federal funding, apparently about $53.7 million.
But why do they want to do that?
Well, they're claiming that they can use that money that they try to enforce this underage drinking to do more effective things like work towards drug abuse and sexual assaults.
And make more cheese.
And make more cheese. So they claim that, if 19-year-olds can enlist in the military, but they can't drink.
Oh, I agree with that.
Yeah. But the thing that was interesting, a couple of things about Wisconsin, which I didn't know about.
What's that?
Well, first of all, if it's the only state in the country where first offense drunken drivers are treated as a traffic offense and not a crime. I think that's because they want you to focus on cheese. That Wisconsin, according to a study in 2015, showed that Wisconsin was the heaviest drinking state in the U.S.
Well, there's nothing much else to do there.
Eat cheese.
Except for cheese.
Okay, but here's the one that I found most interesting. And I don't know if there's any other state with this law on the books. If anybody knows, let me know. It says, even though the drinking age has been 21 in Wisconsin since 1986, state law permits an underage person to legally have a beer with their parents at a bar or a restaurant.
Say it again, that they're...
The state law permits an underage person to legally have a beer with their parents at a bar or a restaurant.
I see.
I've never heard of that law before, so that was very interesting.
And that's why Wisconsin is such a major state.
Yeah. And then, of course, I've been telling you, to watch for certain buzzwords out there.
Wisconsin is the twin state. It's called a twin state for Michigan.
Yes. That's why I like Wisconsin, right? Anyway, I've been telling you to watch for the word demon. So here's a demon shark connected with a snake's head.
Oh, I did see
So we have a demon, a shark, and a snake.
It's prehistoric, isn't it?
Apparently, they call it an ultra rare frilled shark, which has the body shaped like a snake, a head like a shark, was spotted and captured off the coast of Portugal.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. So we have demon, shark, and snake, all in one sentence, right?
I wish we could get one for my fish tank.
Well, I might eat all your other fish.
Well, but that's all you would need is that one.
Maybe, because it would eat everything else. And then, of course, I have a lot of news going on with kind of the Muslim New World religion, pedophilia.
All in one, huh?
Well,
is it in one story?
No, it's several stories that kind of segue one from another. But I'm just kind of watching the trends, which is what I try and keep you informed on. That there's an Indian politician. This is India.
Oh yes, it is India.
They are offering an Indian politician is offering $1.5 million for the beheading of a Bollywood star over a Hindu queen and a Muslim ruler romance film.
Because that never happened before.
But can you imagine now that they're actually calling for the beheading of these people, politically, a major political figure there. So this is like Muslim sort of thing again.
Well, the Indians hate the Muslims.
Well, apparently there's a film called Padmavati that was set to be released in theaters December 1.
Oh, I thought that was like you had that with rice.
And it's caused a firestorm, it says, over the alleged handling of this relationship. So, but again, calling for beheading is like, really? And
well, sometimes you call for my beheading.
No, not sometimes, like all the time.
Yeah, I know.
Then
That's
we
why
have
I like to wear high collars.
Saudi crowned prince says will crush, excuse me, the Hezbollah with Israel.
Yes.
Because the Saudi King Salman was claiming, according to British newspapers, that he's going to step down and announce his son. He did do that? Okay, and announce his son as successor. So the successor is the 32-year-old Prince Mohammed bin Salman.
Just to keep the same name.
Well, that is kind of their family name.
Yeah.
And apparently this, I guess now the King Mohammed bin Salman, started with the arrest of 40 princes and government ministers in a corruption probe, whatever they would call corruption.
Yeah, he tortured them.
according to them, they brought in American mercenaries, or
Right, of
according to
course,
inside sources.
Yeah, of course. Americans only would torture them.
So, and billionaire Prince Al-Walid was hung upside down just to send a message, and he supposedly is worth like $7 billion.
They kept his robe on, and like his robe flew up over his head.
I don't know. It's a terrible thing. But anyway, all these people supposedly were being held prisoners at this Riyadh's Ritz-Carlton.
Oh, well, at least if you torture, you're in the Ritz.
That's terrible. So
Ritz
anyway,
torture.
we don't know what all that's going to mean, but do you know what that's going to mean for...
Yeah.
What?
It means that Saudi Arabia needs to revamp its government old-fashioned ways of doing things, break away from the old Arabic ties. They're going to forge a new, well, they have a new relationship with the Israelis, so that the Israelis will destroy the enemies of Saudi Arabia in exchange for billions and billions of dollars.
What about this? We'll crush Hezbollah. What does that mean?
Yeah, but Hezbollah is funded by Iran, and right now that's in Syria and Lebanon, and so they're really fighting for Iran on the Israeli borders. And so, but they also hate Saudi Arabia because they want Saudi Arabia to become an Islamic republic like Iran, which technically it is. But Saudi Arabia is the only country in the world that's named after a family.
Yeah, that I know. Well, it's a family that runs it.
Right. It's like I should have my own.
Yeah, you would be like Swerdlow country or something.
Well, there is Sverdlovsk, you know.
Yeah, but
I could
you're not
break
the
that
king
away.
yet.
It's bigger than Germany.
That's true.
So
Maybe you
I could have like my own.
Maybe have your own followers.
I could.
Maybe Putin would just give it to you.
This is something to think about.
Maybe
we should
Putin,
do that.
Maybe Putin would just give it to you.
He might. I have to request him.
Yeah. And then Israel, speaking of Israel, just hosted 7 countries in its largest ever Air Force drill. Apparently they do this every year, and usually they have a certain amount of countries.
Yeah, but this is the biggest
This
they've
is the
ever
biggest
had.
because this is the first time that France and Germany have joined in with Italy, India. It's India's first time as well.
Oh, yes.
The U.S., Poland, and Greece. So it says 7 air forces, 1,000 men. And it's the first time they've trained over Israeli skies. I guess I can't say men anymore, it's troops.
So why would all those countries be flying over Israel?
Oh, 8 countries, I guess, including
It's 8,
Israel.
Yeah. But here's something also that's interesting.
What?
Is that it's the first time a Luftwaffe plane was actually based in Israel. And considering the history of the Germany, that's very significant.
Right. And not only that, but it says the main benefit of the exercise was diplomatic and paints Israel as the most stable country in the region.
Even though Israel now is deporting a Swedish woman who was of Jewish descent because they said that her father became a Christian. So that's stable to throw someone out because they converted to another religion.
Well, they're always at war in that area, so I don't know how they can call it stable, but that's what they're saying. So that was interesting, and they called it Blue Flag. And apparently they claim they do this twice a year. Now, of course, I hadn't heard about it before. It doesn't mean it obviously didn't happen.
Because they didn't invite you.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
They should have a Janet. There is a Janet airline.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe
Area 51.
Janet airline flying over that area.
Yeah. And then, now this was interesting news to me. Do you know what the Amos prophecy on Jewish land is?
Well, I think it has to do with the Third Temple, doesn't it?
Yes, the Third Temple. The nation Sanhedrin, is that how you say that?
Sanhedrin, the courts, the ancient court system.
Okay, and the United Temple Movement, under the auspices of the Mount Zion
I
Association,
didn't know that existed.
it annually prepares olive oils that is ritually pure, New World religion, and ready for use in the temple. But this
year... Did you
year...
get some to cook with Thanksgiving?
No, because they wouldn't give it to me, because I'm not...
Because you're a shiksa.
Yeah, and I'm not involved in New World religion, obviously. But anyway, this year the olives were harvested from a special orchard intended to send a special light into the world that adheres to a prophecy with current-day political ramifications. They claim that this oil making is part of an ongoing effort by the Mount Zion Association to recreate temple rituals and become familiar with them in every detail, so they can be reinstated without delay should the need arise in the near future.
So should the Messiah come back suddenly, they're ready.
Exactly, and it says it has to do with, I saw somewhere about this third temple.
This is right there.
Yeah, in preparation for the third temple.
Which I told you, which Netanyahu said before his term of office is done, he's going to rebuild it.
Yeah, did you talk about it in this one or this one? I think True World History.
True World History, but I'm going to tell something.
Yeah.
That all of you who come to the island of Nevis in December for our meeting there, and or come to our January class in 2018. I have an entire new section just on this topic involving the Templars, the Third Temple, King Solomon, blah, blah, blah. Amazing stuff.
Well, it's always amazing, of
It's
course.
like even I'm shocked sometimes.
Yeah, so good. And so, again, continue about Israel. In Israel, apparently, they are building a $50 million catacombs under Jerusalem for 22,000 bodies because there's such a big demand for Jews to be buried in Israel. And apparently these crypts are buried under a mountain northwest of the holy city, which will feature a 150-yard elevator shaft.
Yeah, but you skipped out the most important reason.
Well, I haven't finished.
Oh, because you went on. Go on.
So apparently, this cemetery, how do you say this?
Har HaMenuchot.
Okay, cemetery. It's Israel's largest
In
cemetery.
Hebrew, Har means mountain.
There are already 150,000 people buried there. And the reason that it's being financed by out-of-country Jews, overseas Jews, is because if you're buried in this particular location, they said that that when the Messiah comes and the resurrection happens, that those who are closest to Jerusalem will be resurrected first.
So they get resurrected first, and they can take everybody else's stuff before they get resurrected.
Could be.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it reminded me of the Vatican because the Vatican...
It's like having like first class resurrection instead of economy.
Right. So the Vatican, remember, is named after the goddess of death, goddess Vaticana, and under there, that Vatican is built on crypts of dead people.
Yeah.
So here we have now the Jews doing the same thing, right?
Where do you think the Christians got it from?
Now, the other thing that was interesting to me is because we've been telling you about how the old times are being resurrected on the podcast and especially in this book, the True World History. The old times are being resurrected. So they said burials like this existed in ancient times, 1600 to 2000 years ago.
Yeah, we were there.
And we have revived this tradition because of the lack of burial space. They don't have lack of burial space. There's plenty of room out there in the desert.
No, but they want settlements on them. Like Japan has, now they have like apartment building cemeteries. So you could take and then after a few years they take your body out and cremate it, and then they put new ones in.
Yeah, but the Jews don't believe in cremation, according to this article. Then it says the project was nominated for an award by the International Tunneling and Underground Space Association.
I never knew about that either.
Who knows? The ITA.
International Tunneling Association.
And it also finished as a runner-up in the Innovative Underground Space Concept of the Year category.
Of course.
Who knew? Going on to more biological things of kind of half living, half dead.
Like,
there is a claim that the first human head transplant has allegedly been performed on a corpse.
Oh, on a corpse.
In an 18-hour operation.
Well, you can't lose with that, can you?
That was successfully.
You start with a dead patient. What could happen?
That connected the spine, nerves, and blood vessels. Now, the operation was actually carried out in China by the same surgeon who successfully grafted a head onto the body of a monkey.
Yeah, I did see that one.
Well, I reported on it, but I don't remember if the monkeys were alive or dead. I don't remember.
They probably ate them afterwards.
Maybe.
It's China.
But we have been hearing about this Italian professor Sergio
Canarero.
Right, director of the Turin Advanced Neuromodulation Group, who has been working with this team, and said they would imminently move on to a living human who is paralyzed from the neck down, which I've reported on several times.
I actually hope that they're successful, but I would rather see them fix the body in the first place instead of having to cut the head off.
And they can't fix it, as you know, through...
But that goes along with the beheading stuff, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. So we have more. And speaking of more triggers and more, again, I'm going to brief this into the Muslim and everything that's going on with Islam. I'm sorry. This is about bikini barristers turn men into Harvey Weinstein's a Washington City claims. Now this is important because first of all, we've been talking about Harvey as a trigger, Harvey the White Rabbit, Harvey the Hurricane. Right, and then there was a third Harvey, Harvey Weinstein. So these three Harveys are out there. So,
but it's interesting because we talked about that Har something in Israel.
Oh yeah, and there's another Har.
Harvey, which in Hebrew Har mountain, Ve worries, mountain of worry.
Okay, so that makes sense. And do you know what that means?
But Weinstein is a German word. And
Which means
a stein, a stone, a vine, wine. Wine's,
mountain of worry and stone and wine.
In fact, my grandmother's maiden name was Weinstein.
So anyway, this is happening in the city of Everett, about 30 miles north of Seattle, where apparently, for whatever reason, there's numerous bikini baristas. Barista?
Barrister. It's a lawyer.
I thought it was barista.
No.
It's not a lawyer.
A barrister is a lawyer, isn't it?
But it's these are the barmaids. They call them baristas.
Oh, it's like Espanol.
I don't know, but they call them barista.
Barista.
Anyway, so they have these espresso stands that says servers are dressed in anything from tasteful, it says whatever that means.
I saw those pictures. They're not
tasteful two-piece swimsuits to pasties and G-strings, serving up coffee at drive-through windows.
That's what you did at Thanksgiving.
No, that was you.
Oh, that's.
I liked your pasties.
It was one of us.
It was you.
Yeah.
Well, Everett lawmakers have been steamed about the coffee stands for years.
You know, we drove through Everett.
Yes, it's only 30 miles north of Seattle.
Yeah.
Arguing everything from obscenity to mob ties, officials are taking a page out of the headlines and citing a new argument, that the skin-flaunting coffee servers could turn men into the next Harvey Weinstein.
Right, so just by looking at them, they immediately convert them to sexual abusers.
Okay, but so this is what reminded me of the Islam thing. Then the Muslims, they say that's why the women have to cover themselves, and why, for example, if a man rapes a woman, why they kill the woman.
Listen, people.
Let me finish, please, and then you can comment. This is why
so powerful you are.
This is an important point. The reason that they kill the women, if the women are raped, is because in Islam they say the woman did something, quote unquote, wrong.
She enticed the
exactly.
man.
She enticed him, so it was her fault. Whatever she did, whether it was a strand of hair showing, maybe she blinked or clicked her heels, whatever. So that's why they will kill the woman and let the man go free. He can't help himself because they're very weak-minded.
Well, besides that, women have no value. They're just, nothing.
The point being is here they're saying the same thing, that if men see women, it turns them into somebody who's going to sexually harass them.
Listen, people, I'm going to interject.
I'm still talking.
But I'm going to forget. You my
won't.
age, I will forget.
Well, you're making them lose their train of thought, and I'll have to start over, which is going to
no,
drag
just go
this
ahead,
on. So
go
let
ahead.
me finish, please.
Finish.
Point being is that because now they're integrating these Middle Eastern people with a different culture and a different religion, part of this is they're saying and making this normal that men can't help themselves because women are just there.
So women should wear a burqa all the time?
Well,
or hijab?
Now you can state your...
Well, the thing is, if a man is going to rape a woman, it doesn't make a damn bit of difference what she's wearing or not wearing.
Yeah, but that doesn't have anything to do with it. My
No,
point
but
is about the Muslims
is that
and
it's
Islam.
not going to entice a man to do that, because if he has in his mind to do it, it won't make a difference.
Right, but then the Islam and Muslim people say that, according to their religion, that it's okay. I mean, that man can't help himself, and the woman should be punished. So this is what they're saying now, that we should cover up the women because the men can't help themselves. And they're going to be like Harvey Weinstein. And all these men are going to start groping, and they won't be to blame because the women are out there looking this way.
It's just mental, it's a mental issue.
The bigger overall picture is what they're doing with the Middle Eastern Muslim Islam culture into Western culture, and how they're integrating it and making it more acceptable in their own unique ways. So you don't even understand they're sneaking this in. And then this was interesting that I found, I can't remember where, but I did research this. As far as I can tell, this is true. If it's not, you'll tell me. But a couple things. First, in Sweden, underage immigrant wives are allowed to stay with their husbands, which now Sweden is saying this is because of humanitarian issues. But in Sweden, there is an age limit. And minors I don't know what it is, but minors cannot marry. But the immigrants are bringing in their minor child
so it's
female
a double
brides.
standard.
But they're getting people used to that. They're saying, now this is normal because this group can do it, so then the other group's going to want to do it. And polygamy, same thing. Because these men come in with multiple wives, and so that is also now becoming acceptable behavior. So this is a blending of New World religion. It is bringing everything and making it one, and they're forcing on you to accept it. And in Sweden, there was recently a case of 2 juvenile immigrants in Karlskrona that were allowed to stay with their husbands. The husbands were adults, these were minors, but that's not legal under Swedish law, but they're allowing that to happen. And so, and people are talking about Sharia law, that is a way of making it legal, even though technically it's not. You know, they're using this gray area here to make it
Very
acceptable.
sad about Sweden. It used to be a very nice country.
And the same thing with Britain, the same thing they say is happening, that there are men with multiple wives, and even it says younger Islamic men who get married, and then instead of divorcing the first one, they fall in love, or for whatever reason they take a second wife. They have two households, and it's kind of looked over like Mormons was done in Utah and in that area,
Well,
and it's still kind
that's not legal either.
No, but it has been allowed. It's not prosecuted as a general rule. So here we have the same thing happening: pedophilia, multiple partners, New World religion being integrated into areas where you would think would never be integrated. And then last week I also told you of this CK or Louis CK, whoever it was, who admitted to masturbating, over the phone in front of women and so forth. So now I have this woman again in Washington State, 35 years old, who went out to get dinner for her kids, and as she was leaving the store, a man pulled up. He was fondling himself as he asked for directions. She told him to get lost. She tried to get his driver's license, license plate picture of that, but he sped off. She thought that he was gone. She warned other shoppers because apparently first, before he left, he tried to get other women to answer him. So then she was walking home, according to her. Then he got out of the car and, unbeknownst to her, slammed her down, and she has, of course, horrible face contusions as a result. But again, here's this masturbation issue coming to the forefront. And then Washington State again.
What's going on with your homeland?
Yeah, Okanagan County.
Okanagan.
Over toward the Spokane area of the state. Officials with a naval air station on Whidbey Island said one of their aircraft was involved in the obscene skywriting spotted in Okanagan County.
Right.
Now, some people said this was male genitalia.
It did look like it.
And the Navy officials did respond, saying it was unacceptable and so on and so forth. Well, I will tell you, first of all, I saw it, and it wasn't that horrible considering what things are these days. Second of all, no Navy pilot of that caliber is going to do something against orders. Because, they can be court-martialed, demoted, killed, whatever. For doing it, because when you're in the military, they can do whatever they want to you. So they're not going to do this.
So you think they did that on purpose?
Absolutely. Like they're imprinting the people, the atmosphere,
but
something.
Okanagan? Who cares about it?
Well, that's the point. They made sure everybody all over the world knew about it.
Why wouldn't they do that over New York City or L.A.?
Well, and the funny thing was, to me, they had a mother said she was so concerned she was going to have to explain the image to her young children what the drawings were. You can't even really tell what they are. So anyway, I just thought all of this was interesting, and FAA responded saying they cannot police morality. It's like, really, that's what you're trying to do, everybody.
Right.
So I thought that all this was very interesting, all going on at the same time. And then, of course, another one of my favorite topics, robots. There was a tech columnist, you can read, it's very lengthy, so I'm not going to go into the details, but his main theme was, I hugged a bot and I liked it. And he talks about how that robots are going to be integrated into the families, and there's one robot called Jibo, and Jibo says, quote, I am a robot, but I am not just a machine. I have a heart. Well, not a real heart, but feelings. Well, not human feelings. You know what I mean.
No, I don't.
Yeah. So then this man took it to his kids' playrooms, his house, his parents' house, to see what people's reactions were. And of course, who was the most responsive was the children. And they always say that everybody wants to hug a robot. Well, I don't think so. And these were like cold plastic, they didn't look human, but that's what he's claiming. He said the most interesting response was from a 3-year-old who tried to converse with the robot because they probably didn't know if it was alive or what it was. And she tried to teach him things and said he is a baby. And so this, I guess, is supposed to be adorable. But the Jibo's creator from MIT says that kids are the first to catch on that robots exist in our physical world. She says the technology makes technology accessible and fun and engaging. So in other words, let's imprint the children. They won't know any better, and they'll be raised with it, and they're not going to fight against it. They will automatically accept these sort of robots in their life.
They already have the cell phones that talk to them and the computers that talk to them, so it's no different.
All right, one more thing. And again, Washington State. I have another
Washington
State story, that the Washington State Police have a distracted driving law, which they started back in July, which I wasn't aware of, but I'm sure that if it's in one state, it's going to be in the other states, or maybe it already is. But now people can be arrested or pulled over and ticketed for doing things other than texting, which that's been a big thing, like eating a cheeseburger, putting on...
So you can get arrested for having a cheeseburger in your car?
Well, eating it while you're driving, or putting on
Everybody
makeup,
does
or
that.
reading. I'm just saying that now they can arrest you. The first offense is $136 if it's a technological one, like texting. If it's only like eating or drinking kind of things, it's $99. But it gives you another reason for them to pull you over.
What if it's like masturbating? What is that?
It didn't say, but I'm sure that's distracted driving, and they could probably do something too. And then I have been talking to you about this transgender issue. Of course, as we know, it's not going to go away very fast, if at all.
It's not going away, period.
So now, and I had told you about them in the U.S., drag queens doing story time at the local libraries. New York, I talked about that a few months ago. Well, according to this, now they're doing it in, let me see, there's 7 government-funded nurseries in the UK. And they want to move it to 37 centers run by the London Early Years Foundation. So these are for toddlers, like usually around 2 years old.
So they have a drag queen reading stories to toddlers.
Yes, to teach them about gender fluidity.
Because they need to know that when they're like 3.
Yes, because they claim that will teach them about this, so later on they won't commit hate crimes.
This is why Britain lost the empire.
Yeah, but they're already doing that in the U.S. So these classes are being supposedly started by this law graduate who's 26 years old, and he got his ideas, of course, from the U.S.
Don't tell me he's gender fluid.
I don't know. He's a drag queen.
Oh, duh.
So then, and the tail end of this story, now this also, again...
The tail end?
The tail end. An 8-year-old drag queen takes the world by storm.
Are you kidding me?
His name, I guess, is Nemus. And he has an alter ego that he calls Lactatia.
Oh my God, and his parents let him get away with
The
that.
mother thinks it's great. It's creative. He's tapping into his creative side. She was on with him. It fosters independent spirit, being an individual.
She needs to go to mental institution.
And anyway, so they had the little boy, 8 years old, dressed as a drag queen, you know, and of course the mother's getting attention, the child's getting attention, you know. So there's always people to feed into this stuff. Don't watch these things. Don't comment. Turn them off. You know, and the less energy you put into it, the less it's going to grow. But as you said, you know, they have a plan.
These are mentally ill people.
Yes, but their mental illness is becoming normal, unfortunately. Seen as normal. And in New York City, the Metropolitan Transportation Authority is no longer going to be saying ladies and gentlemen. They're going to be saying passengers, riders, and everyone.
See, but they don't do that now. They just say in New York, hey, use guys.
Well,
see?
You can't say use guys.
Yeah, well, you can't say use because
you can say use, but you can't say guys.
Because if I have multiple personalities, I'm just a use, just one of me.
Well, you can say you and use,
all
but you can't say guys. But you can't say guys because that would be insulting to somebody like me, who's obviously not a guy. Or maybe it's not obvious, but anyway, I'm not a guy, just in case you
just say,
want to know.
hey, use.
But then, like you said, what if it's only one? It has to be you and use. I think they should change that. And in the UK, now this was kind of interesting. Again with the UK. A woman named Natasha Devon, who used to work for the UK something or another and doesn't anymore, so I don't know why they're...
So she has no job. Go on.
Anyway, she gave a talk at the Girls' School Association annual conference in Manchester.
Manchester.
And she said not to call them girls or ladies,
No.
or boys or girls.
Oh.
And the reason is because it's not useful to be constantly reminded of your gender.
Why?
Because then you will think of all the stereotypes that go with it.
So every time you have to use the bathroom, how do you not remind yourself of your gender?
Well, because you might not be that day. It changes.
But your parts are still there.
Well, maybe they change.
No, your parts are still there.
Maybe they flip all around or whatever. Maybe they don't. That's probably next. They probably won't even give them names.
Detachable parts.
Maybe. But anyway, so she says you should use pupil, students, or people because girls evokes a sense you have to do everything perfectly, which can create anxiety in children.
But if I don't think I'm a people, and that's offensive to me.
That's true. That's a very good
So
point.
she's in trouble.
Yes. And boys carries the connotations of being macho, not talking about your feelings, or being told to man up.
She's a brilliant woman.
That's why
I can see why she lost her job.
Yeah, but why are they having her speak? And why are they quoting her in the paper? I mean, because it puts things in people's head. Now here's France, lovely France.
Oh, I love France.
France has
just like the wine and cheese, nothing else.
Banning gender-neutral French in government papers. Apparently not. I don't know this. I hadn't heard this story before.
What does that mean?
Well, because they were introducing something called écriture inclusive, which splits up words using a punctuation point called a mid-dot, so that the plural for ami, which means friends, becomes ami.e.s. And citoyen, which means citizens, becomes citoyen.ne.s.
How do you even say that?
Well, that's the issue. So apparently they have a
Académie Française.
Yeah, it's the gatekeeper of the French language that argues that doing this poses a mortal danger to the purity of French.
Oh, this is terrible for
this
France.
organization has 40 members that only includes a handful of women, of course. But they say that the move leads to a fragmented language, disparate in its expression, creating confusion that borders on being unreadable. Which I agree.
Well, it is unreadable.
Yeah, it's the same thing
it's
here.
Ridiculous.
When we have to do all these various pronouns.
Really, go back to cooking French pastry, okay?
So, no, anyway, so they're just following along with, you know, what's supposed to be with everybody else. Apparently, everything was kind of overlooked, but then a French publishing house produced a primary school textbook using this écriture inclusive. And that's what started the storm.
Even the French.
And so this group, which is known as the Immortels, in French,
use that essential oil, Immortel.
Would be immortel with only one L, immortel.le.s.
That's ridiculous.
If it was used by écriture inclusive. So, anyway, I just thought this was very interesting because now they're banning it on one level. So that means now they're going to have something for government and they're going to have something for the people, which is what we've always talked about. They have certain rules and regulations for one class of people and certain rules and regulations for another class of people.
If the French keep that up, the Germans will invade again, and I wouldn't blame them.
Well, but they're all doing it. And I was thinking about this because in the U.S. it's kind of like the best place to start with this gender-neutral stuff because we don't have, you know, like masculine, feminine objects.
I saw an article today also about a man who said that he's not a man and he's not a woman. He's just human.
No. Was that a new one? Because I might have reported on that.
And he dressed like, it shows you like, one picture was him in high heels and like a top, and the other was with him with male shoes and
just like a
suit.
man.
And so he could be anything.
Yeah, well, that's
But he had breasts.
Well, maybe that day he was half and half.
No, he had breasts.
I don't know.
Because he wore a thing you could see.
But the point is, in the U.S., we don't have, like, a table's a table. It is already gender neutral. Or if you go to a lot of, you know, the Latin languages, everything has a gender. So if we have to go to, you know, they have to change everything then. And that's the issue with the French.
In Hungarian, there is no gender.
No?
No.
Are there any other languages that don't have gender?
Well, here's the thing, is because Hungarian language is related to Sumerian, which is reptilian, which is androgynous.
So that's why they're trying to bring this thing in, which we already know. But it's interesting how they're starting, you know, they're just, everything is going to be such a confused mess before it's done because it's already a confused mess. Right? So.
Just when you think it couldn't get any worse.
It does. So if you want to you know, look at your own program, if you haven't read 13 Cube, this is great to deal with programming on our website. For our members, we have mind control and programming and mind control and deprogramming for
genderless people.
Counselors and teachers. We have study guides. We have all kinds of things that you, if you're a member on our site, that you can read and view. And you can then have something to teach you what is going on, which we talked about for decades now. And then, because you want to be in control of your own mind, Hyperspace Plus, Healing Archetypes and Symbols, Hyperspace Helper. This is a great trilogy for health and healing if you want that for your library. Decoding Your Life, my new session of the self-healing webinars.
The webinars are really good.
Based on Decoding Your Life.
I love being on those webinars.
Yeah, we do a lot of things. We do dream interpretation on those. We take a look at what you're doing and give you personal help and guidance. We give personal affirmations. We do a lot of things. Our next session starts in December, on the first Tuesday in December, based on universal law. If you can't join us, they're recorded. You can purchase them if you're a member. A lot of those are free on our site. And then the book, Decoding Your Life, Universal Law. So we make it very easy for you. We have the information, but you have to look at it and use it. You know, it's up to you. We're here. You know, it's up to you what you do with it.
but to use.
Have to use it. And then, of course, in January class, which is our most intensive
Yeah, but go back to Nevis, because I'm
Nevis.
revealing a lot of stuff in Nevis.
Yeah, we have one lecture is on the true history of the Templars, and one, I can't remember the other name, I forgot to write it down. Do you remember the second lecture?
Yeah, but I can't think of it.
Yeah, and it was all tied in, but anyway, so we'll have those lectures there. It's going to be a great tour.
Plus, there's a wedding.
A wedding and the new bringing back of the
Templar investiture.
Of the old Templars.
Tour of the only Templar museum in the Caribbean, maybe the world.
So we have a lot of interesting things in December going on, which I don't know if there's any room at the hotel that where we will be staying. You can check; it's still online.
Unless they want to stay with us, like in our room.
No. And then,
what if they're genderless? It doesn't matter.
No.
Or if they think they're a giraffe. No. Okay.
No. So then we have our January class, and then we're putting together our 2018 schedule. That should be posted on the website very
Holy
soon.
cannolis! I'm like never going to be here in all of 2018.
Yeah, we have a lot of things going on. We always have a lot of.
And I say, Janet, what am I supposed to do? All it's just bye, just go.
I'll see you later.
Yeah, it's like it's okay, you can go.
Yeah. So anyway, be sure and join our website. Less than $1 a day for continual support. And you can visit with other people of like minds. That's what we're there for.
If you have a mind.
If you have a mind. And the reason that we charge you less than $1 a day is because most people, I would say probably 99.9% who are on our membership site are very serious about their hyperspace oversoul work. Which, by the way, if you want to join our Hyperspace Oversoul Mastermind group, which begins in January 2018 again, because we renew the contracts every year, you must have our January class. So if you decide in February you want to join, I'm sorry it's too late. You've got to come to our January class. That is a requirement, so everybody's kind of on the same level.
Unless you can go back in time and then attend.
Yeah, and we do have a private Oversoul Mastermind group forum for our people. And this year we're going to be helping them write their own book, whatever that might be.
Oh, that's right.
So for those of you who want to participate, it's there. We have our Love Money Purpose site that is also available where you can get your own clients. So we teach a lot of things so that you can help yourself and help others. Less than $1 a day for the membership. That's where it starts. And of course, like our Facebook pages, please invite your friends to like them. Share our content, because I've talked to you about this before. It is very easy to take a real pebble and hide it among a bunch of false pebbles. And we're a real pebble.
I happen to be a beautiful crystal.
Yeah. Well, because they'll hide you on a beach.
I'm not a pebble.
Yeah.
Maybe you're a pebble.
I like it when the pebbles have been
Oh, is that what you decided you are today?
By the waters.
Are you a genderless pebble?
Yes. The genderless pebble that was turned by the waters of the raging river.
Yeah, raging river's right. That's for sure with you.
Down the mountain where I'm from. And also remember in Italy, that I will tell you, Stewart and I will be taking a tour to Italy first part of June. And maybe some post and pre-tours where you're working on all that too. So watch our website, please. Don't write to us and say what events do you have going on. Check the website.
And we just received a link to the show I did in Istanbul. So is that going to be posted?
I posted on somebody's Facebook page, I think mine.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's in it anywhere, if it's on the expansions page.
It's both in English and Turkish.
Yes, so it's a very interesting, a lot of Montauk info. And of course in January, Stewart's working on his own Montauk movie.
Yes.
Very exciting.
Studio.
And a special guest, and the wave table in January. We haven't talked about that
A very
yet.
special guest. I'll give you a hint from the Montauk Project.
Yeah.
And the life wave table, which took all the pain out of my body until you put it back in with the,
nobody can put it back in. You have to do it yourself.
Hitting me with that stuff.
No, you were hitting yourself.
Yeah.
You had a wig on and you said you were me, but you weren't.
Because that day I decided I was going to be something else.
Female.
Well, check my parts.
It is it today. I'll
can't
look
tell.
Because I don't know if I can tell.
Yeah. Anyway.
So we'll see you next week. Have a good week.
Yes,
and let us know your thoughts.
Happy holiday season.
Bye.
Bye.